Hey everyone, got another video here for you showing you the new content for Wing Leader. And with this final expansion comes the completion of the Wing Leader series, except for an update to Supremacy. But we have Victories, the first to be published, Supremacy, the two main games, and then expansion 1, Blitz, 2, Eagles, Origins, and now Legends. And this is the final expansion. This one is kind of a fill in the gaps expansion. It includes some more aircraft scenarios and a campaign system. Unlike the previous expansions, these previous three kind of focused on specific time periods, with Blitz being the Victories time frame, Eagles being Supremacy, Origins again being early, but fitting underneath the Victories kind of umbrella. Legends really bridges the gap between all of them, and you do need much of the content from these other games to play some of these scenarios. But I'm going to go ahead and set these aside, and we'll take a look and see what's inside this expansion. So this came just like all the other expansions in a plastic bag. And first off, let's take a look at the scenario book. This includes 22 new scenarios and begins with an explanation of the new campaign system, which I'm pretty excited about, but I'll go ahead and skip that for now. And we'll look at, starting here, scenarios 1 through 22. We've got Chinese versus Japanese, early war, Belgians and French fighting alongside, early World War II. More French, but versus Italians. That's interesting. British and Italians in Albania, 1941. We have Yugoslavia. This is a new minor nation that comes in this expansion. We've got a new aircraft type, the IK-3, along with some Yugoslavian 109s and Hurricanes. That's pretty neat. Here we have a scenario with Italians in Russia. A new aircraft type there. This is Philippines here. The opening attack by the Japanese on the Clark Airfield, and so here we got a new aircraft type, P-35, as well as that G3M2. Here we've got British and Japanese, 1942. Americans, Japanese, 1943. Again, 1943, so 3 Japanese-US scenarios. Here's a Japanese-British scenario in Darwin, Australia. 1943. Here's another counterfactual, including the Swedes. We saw a few of these in Eagles, but here we've got another scenario with what would have happened if the Swedish had gotten in the fight before the end of World War II. Here's Sicily. So we got Americans and British versus Germans and Italians, so 4 nations involved. Pretty cool. There's the Baltimore. It's a new aircraft type right there. Here we've got Italy and Bulgaria. takes an appearance here. We got some Bulgarian D520s and 109s versus American bombers. Here we've got Americans versus Italians. We got a new aircraft type here, the G55. Americans versus Germans, 1944. With Me-410s. Very cool. Operation Arcturus. Russian attack aircraft versus shipping. Germany defending, 1944. Here we've got Hungary. Got Romanian Ju-87s. Romania and Soviets versus Axis over here. British and Germans, 1942, and there you have it. 22 scenarios. And here it kind of gives you a breakdown of all the scenarios and what expansions or products you need to play. So you notice that a lot of these require both like Blitz, Origins, Eagles. So this is really tying in. You're going to need to have all of this other content if you want to make the most of all these scenarios and to play these. All right, now this is pretty neat. Here we have a compilation of all the aircraft types. What ADC do I use? So this is pretty impressive. How many aircraft are now represented in this series? It's quite impressive. That is a lot. So this is useful if you've got a scenario to play and you've got, especially with variants, and you know there's multiple different, or you may be designing your own scenario and you want to look up a specific kind of Focke-Wulf. So there's so many variants here, and if you wanted to use an A8, then it tells you what ADC to use. Whereas you can see here that all of these variants use the A4 main ADC. And then the card versions as well is helpful at a glance, what version the ADCs are at, what date they're available, and some notes on them. So that's a very nice addition there, helpful. All right, let's start looking at the ADCs and counters. We've got a sheet of new aircraft types, lots of Italians, good stuff. RE-2000, RE-2002 fighters. There's a bomber, BR-20, a medium bomber, C-1007, and here's the G-55. This is kind of the climax of the Italian fighters here in World War II. We got a Yugoslavian fighter, the IK-3, and 2 Japanese aircraft, a light bomber, 2 light bombers, a float plane. Very nice. All right, and this is the thicker card stock. This they started printing on this stuff with Eagles. Nice and thick. And then here we have some American aircraft, the Baltimore P-35, A-17, and the P-26 pea shooter, which you see in a Chinese scenario. In addition, we've got some new markers, some radio net markers. This is a nice addition for keeping track of what radio net aircraft are on. And you can kind of see the back side of those. They say radio clutter, so you can indicate if the radio net is cluttered or not. 2 markers for the campaign, and then some gyro markers to mark those squadrons that have gyro sites. That's another helpful addition there. And here's some squadron flight markers, another ground marker, flak, and a railhead on one side. And then we have one full sheet of aircraft counters. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Look at the colors, especially on these I-16s. That's pretty neat. There's a Japanese Italian bomber, a BR-20, in the Japanese paint scheme. Very neat. I like that checkered tail. All right. Lots of new good stuff. I think I'm going to have trouble fitting all of this in one box now. All right, and then last of all, we have the Decision Over Cursed miniature campaign. This is pretty neat. What it comes with was those two markers I showed you up here. There's two counters for it. And this is, it's a bunch of linked scenarios and 2 orders of battle. How this works is you basically start here with scenario D0K01. So in this manual here, you play this scenario, but both sides are going to pick secretly one of these orders of battle. So the Soviets have 3 Raider order of battles, 3 Defender, just like the Germans. And so on this scenario, where you've got the Soviets raiding, the Soviets will choose one of these 3 raid packages. The Germans will secretly choose one of these 3. And then they reveal simultaneously what they're using, and then they set up and play the scenario. Depending on the victory conditions, who wins, it's either an Axis victory or, I should say, a Soviet victory or an Axis victory. And that kind of branches off which scenario you play next. So if the Soviets won, then they would get 1 CV point. So this would move up to here, and you can kind of see here the victory levels. So it's going to kind of be fluctuating back and forth based upon the outcome of these scenarios. And then they would next play this scenario, bypassing this one. So then Germans would be the raiders. They select secretly one of these 3. Soviets select secretly one of these 3. And then kind of simultaneously reveal, play out this one, and then just move down this track, adding the victory points seen here. Each scenario does have some bonus victory conditions to give you some extra victory points in the scenario. And it's important to note that when you select one of these raid packages or defending package, you can only use it once during the course of the campaign. So if the Soviets selected this raid package in the first scenario, and then say the campaign plays out to where this scenario is played, Soviets have to raid again, they cannot select this one. They have to select one of these 2. So there's some strategy involved of when you play your raid package. So, you know, these are more ground strikers, whereas these guys are more just level or level bombers or steep angle bombers. Same with the Defender order of battle. Some are stronger than others, and you need to choose when you want to use the strongest one, when to bring out those weaker ones. So a really neat miniature campaign. Not a lot of rules with this one. It's pretty easy just to flow through, play out some scenarios, and see where you fall at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4 scenarios, and the campaign's over. But every time you play, you may play with different scenarios and different raid packages and orders of battle for each scenario. So very neat idea. I really like it, and it was a lot of fun to play test this. So that's what we have, and very nice product, well made, good components, good condition, and that pretty much completes out the Wing Leader series, except for, again, scenario, or the Supremacy is going to get updated to the 2nd edition and get the 2nd edition treatment. So that is going to happen. There will be, I think, 4 new aircraft types that get introduced in some extra scenarios, but that will hopefully be coming out pretty soon, and then that will be the completion of this really amazing system. We have got so much content, so many scenarios, and lots of replayability, and not to mention scenarios that you can design yourself using these aircraft types. There is so much here. So I hope you found this video helpful and beneficial, and if you haven't bought it yet, go out there and get it. It's shipping now. Thanks for watching.